My name's Jenna Marks. I'm 38, and I've been raising my son Caleb on my own since the day I saw those two pink lines and the father said, "Good luck with that." We live in a quiet part of Montana, close enough to my parents for them to meddle, but too far for them to help when it actually matters. I work nights as a trauma unit nurse, so I've seen enough emergencies to know when something's wrong. And when Caleb, who's 11 now, started saying he felt floaty and had trouble catching his breath after gym class, my gut immediately went cold. The first time it happened, I chalked it up to dehydration. Kids run too hard, forget water, and boom, lightheaded. But then it happened again. And again. And each time it took longer for him to bounce back. I scheduled a doctor's appointment, and as expected, the general pediatrician brushed me off. "It's probably just anxiety. You said you work nights? Maybe he misses you." I wanted to scream, but instead I nodded, took the prescription for some chewable multivitamins, and left. When I told my mom, Karen, what was going on, her response was exactly what I should have expected. "Oh, Jenna, stop being dramatic. You've always worried too much. Kids get tired. Maybe if you fed him something other than boxed mac and cheese." Never mind the fact that I've spent the last decade juggling Caleb, 12-hour shifts, and whatever freelance photography work I could squeeze in to make ends meet. According to her, I was just a nursing school dropout who chose to struggle. It's not that she's evil, it's worse. She thinks she's being helpful. When Caleb's symptoms didn't go away, I started saving up for a full workup at the Children's Hospital 2 hours away in Billings. I didn't tell her. I knew better. Then my sister Erin called. Big news. She and her husband were throwing a huge 10-year anniversary party. Country club venue, custom invitations, matching outfits for their twins, the works. Erin's always been the good daughter. She married her high school sweetheart, stayed in town, bought the house with the wraparound porch, and let our mom plan her entire wedding menu. Naturally, I was expected to help set up, decorate, and show up smiling like my life was Pinterest-worthy. When I said I might not make it because I had a hospital consult booked for Caleb the same weekend, all hell broke loose. "So you're skipping your sister's once-in-a-lifetime milestone because your son might be a little tired sometimes?" "You don't even know if anything's wrong, Jenna. It's always something with you." Then came the worst part. My mom called and said if I didn't show up, she'd pause the health fund she'd set up for Caleb when he was born. An account I hadn't touched in years, but one I was counting on to help cover the upcoming tests. "You want to go running to doctors and hospitals like always?" she said. "Do it on your own dime." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in Caleb's room watching him sleep, wondering if I was being crazy, or just finally seeing things clearly for once. And like an idiot, I caved. I canceled the hospital appointment. Told myself I'd reschedule the following week. Showed up to the party in a borrowed dress, brought balloons and a forced smile. Caleb looked pale, but I figured we'd just stay an hour, maybe 2. He didn't make it past the welcome toast. Right in the middle of Erin's speech, while everyone clinked glasses and cheered about 10 years of love, Caleb collapsed. No warning, just crumpled to the floor like his legs gave out. His lips were gray, his eyes rolled back. And as I dropped to my knees screaming for someone to call 911, I swear to God. My mother shook her head and whispered to my aunt, "Everything after Caleb hit the ground is kind of a blur, but I remember the silence." The music cut off. Glasses stopped clinking. And in the middle of this Pinterest-perfect party, there was my kid, my baby, unconscious on the floor. I was on my knees before anyone moved. His skin was cold. His breathing shallow, erratic. 1 second, he was blinking at me, confused. The next, his eyes rolled back and his whole body went limp. I yelled for someone to call 911. Loud, clear, urgent. But what I heard first? Laughter, nervous, tight. And then my mom's voice, low but sharp. "Oh, for God's sake, Jenna, not here." Not, "Is he okay?" Not, "What do you need?" Just that. Like Caleb was ruining the floral arrangements. Luckily, someone, I think one of the caterers, had the sense to call the ambulance. I stayed on the ground, holding Caleb's head, trying to keep his airway clear, counting every faint breath like it was a thread holding me together. The ambulance took 11 minutes to arrive. I counted every second. No one knelt beside me. No one offered a blanket or even a damn bottle of water. My sister was too busy whispering to her husband about whether they should pause the slideshow. My mom stood near the buffet table, arms crossed, jaw clenched, like I'd deliberately orchestrated this for attention. When the paramedics came in, I finally saw something familiar. Urgency, focus, someone who believed me. I rattled off everything I could. Fatigue, dizziness, recent episodes. I handed over his chart, which I'd printed out just in case and kept folded in my purse. They nodded, took one look at Caleb's vitals, and moved fast. I rode in the back of the ambulance, gripping his hand the whole way. I don't remember if I cried. I just remember shaking. My whole body like it had finally been given permission to release all the fear it had been storing for weeks. At the hospital, they ran tests immediately. Blood work, EKG, chest x-rays, then a full cardiac panel. The nurse asked if there was a family history of heart problems, and I just stared at her. Back at the party, my mom texted me once. "Let us know when he's stable." Aaron's devastated. I stared at the message like it was written in another language. Aaron's devastated? My son might be dying, and they were worried about her anniversary memories? Hours passed. Tests came back. The pediatric cardiologist sat me down in a tiny consultation room that smelled like old coffee and bleach. He spoke slowly, carefully. The kind of careful that lets you know what's coming isn't good. Caleb has a rare congenital condition. Long QT syndrome, type 2. It's a heart rhythm disorder that can cause fainting, seizures, or sudden cardiac arrest, especially under stress or after exercise. That wasn't dizziness. That wasn't dehydration. That was Caleb's heart screaming for help. And if we hadn't gotten him to the hospital when we did, I didn't let him finish that sentence. They admitted Caleb into the cardiac ICU, hooked up to monitors, IVs oxygen, a defibrillator parked beside his bed. I sat beside him, my body still in party clothes, makeup streaked and stale. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't slept. But I'd never been more awake in my life. Around 2 a.m., I stepped outside to get some air. My phone buzzed. It was a group chat my mom had made earlier that day. Aaron's anniversary weekend. Now there was a new message from her. A photo of Aaron blowing out candles. Caleb's empty chair cropped out. My name not tagged. And below it, a text from my mom. "I hope you're happy. You ruined this day for everyone." I don't know what broke harder, my heart or whatever last piece of hope I was still clinging to that maybe I was wrong about them. But then came the real twist. A nurse tapped me on the shoulder. "Ms. Marks, there's a woman asking to see you. Says she's your mom." I blinked. "Karen?" She shook her head. "Number someone else. She says she's your mother-in-law." My heart dropped. I hadn't spoken to David's mom since he walked out before Caleb was born. She'd made it clear back then that I wasn't the kind of woman she wanted raising her grandchild. But now, she was standing in the lobby, holding a suitcase. And she said, "I came as soon as I heard. Tell me what you need. There's something no one tells you about sitting in a hospital room with your child barely clinging to life. You forget to breathe. You forget what day it is. You forget that outside people are still laughing, scrolling, ordering coffee, going on with their lives like nothing happened. But for me, everything had stopped at that party. Caleb had been in the cardiac ICU for 2 days now. Tubes, monitors, wires. I could barely see his skin. His heart was stable for the moment, but his body was exhausted. He hadn't opened his eyes since we got there. The doctor said we'd caught it in time. That we were lucky. Lucky. That word sat heavy on my chest, like an insult. I hadn't slept in 36 hours. My feet were swollen from standing. I smelled like a mix of hospital sanitizer and regret, but I stayed by Caleb's side. Every beep on the monitor made my spine stiffen. Every change in the IV drip sent panic crawling down my throat. And while I sat there, hands shaking, waiting for some sign he was coming back to me, my phone buzzed. I shouldn't have looked. I should have kept it off like I'd promised myself. But I did. I opened it and saw this. Family update, Aaron and Daniel's anniversary weekend recap. A full photo album, captions, giggling emojis, toasts, videos of my niece and nephew dancing in coordinated outfits, my sister smiling like her life was untouched, my mom standing in front of the country club's fountain captioned, "Still glowing despite the drama, family first." I nearly threw the phone across the room. But I didn't. I just stared at it, the blood pounding in my ears. It wasn't even that they'd moved on. It was the glee. Like Caleb nearly dying had been a minor inconvenience. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat there, silent, cold, and watched my son sleep while his grandmother played Instagram martyr. A nurse came in around noon and gently suggested I grab a real meal. 15 minutes, tops, she promised. We'll page you if anything changes. I nodded, walked to the cafeteria like a ghost, grabbed soup. Didn't eat it. Just sat with it, the steam fogging up my glasses. And that's when she walked in. David's mom. I hadn't seen her since Caleb was 6 weeks old. Back then, she'd shown up at my apartment with a pamphlet for a church retreat and a check I never cashed. She said Caleb deserved stability and that I should consider adoption. She wasn't cruel, just clinical. Like I was a problem she needed to manage. So seeing her there in that cafeteria, holding a bag of clean clothes and a stack of books for Caleb, froze me. "I heard what happened," she said softly. "I flew in last night." I didn't know what to say. I didn't have the energy to be gracious. "Why?" I asked. She sat down beside me, not touching her coffee. "Because I made a mistake back then. I thought I was protecting my son's memory, but I didn't see you. I didn't see how hard you were trying." I blinked, waiting for the but. Instead, she reached into her purse and handed me an envelope. "I don't know if it helps, but this is for Caleb. No strings." I opened it. Inside wasn't money. It was a letter, written in David's handwriting, dated 3 months before he died. "If anything ever happens to me, tell Jenna I'm sorry. Tell her I was scared, but she's stronger than I ever was. And if Caleb's anything like her, he's gonna be just fine." I stopped breathing. I'd spent 11 years believing David had walked out because I wasn't enough, that he didn't want to be a father, that I'd failed before I'd even started. But the truth? He didn't leave me. He was trying to come back. He just never made it. I pressed the letter to my chest like it could plug the hole that had been bleeding in me for over a decade. I don't know how long I sat like that. Long enough for the soup to go cold. Long enough for something inside me to quietly, irreversibly shift. When I finally looked up, David's mom was still there. Quiet, waiting. "Thank you," I whispered. Not just for the letter, but for finally seeing me. If you've ever felt abandoned, if you've ever carried guilt that wasn't yours to hold, I see you. And if you're a parent doing it alone, by choice or not, I promise you, your love is enough. Sometimes it takes years for the truth to reach us. But when it does, it cracks you wide open. And sometimes the thing that shatters you is also the thing that finally sets you free. When you've spent most of your life being quiet to keep the peace, the first time you say no out loud feels like setting fire to a forest. You expect smoke, sirens, collapse. But instead, what I felt was stillness. After I told my mother I wouldn't be coming to the party, and that she could keep her trust fund. I waited for the guilt to hit me like it always did. It didn't. Instead, I walked back into Caleb's hospital room, sat down next to his bed, and took his hand. His monitor beeped steadily, his breaths mechanical but stable. I whispered to him, "I chose you." That night, I finally allowed myself to sleep for 3 uninterrupted hours. When I woke up, the world hadn't ended. No thunder cracked. No inheritance demons burst through the floor. Just sunlight filtering through the blinds and a nurse changing Caleb's IV bag. I started to make a plan. For the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was strategizing. Step 1, financial oxygen. I pulled out the emergency credit card I'd been too afraid to use and booked 2 mini sessions for family portraits. Something I'd stopped doing because my mom always said, photography won't feed a growing boy. Screw that. Step 2, support circle. I called my old coworker Melissa from my nursing days and asked, plainly, if she could drive Caleb to therapy once a week when I had a shift. Her answer? Hell yes. Why didn't you ask sooner? Step 3, cut the leaks. I blocked my mother on everything. Phone, email, even her burner Facebook account where she posts inspirational quotes about forgiveness with captions like, "Some daughters are just ungrateful." I also left the family group chat after politely dropping a message. Please don't contact me unless it's to ask how Caleb is. That includes passive-aggressive memes. FYI. You'd think they'd be concerned. They weren't. What I got instead was radio silence. Until 4 days later. I was just finishing up organizing Caleb's insurance paperwork when an email came in from my mom's lawyer. Subject line: Amendment to Family Trust. Urgent. I opened it. There it was. Cold, clinical. A scanned copy of the revised trust document. My name and Caleb's had been completely removed from all financial provisions. No college fund, no emergency fallback, no property access, not even funeral rights. And at the bottom, signed voluntarily and with full clarity by Karen L. Marks. I sat there, my hands shaking, not from shock, but from rage. She had done it. She actually chose control over her grandson's well-being. But here's the part she didn't know. See, back when Caleb was born, I was terrified I wouldn't be able to give him anything. So David, his dad, had quietly set up a separate education account in my name. He didn't tell his parents. He didn't tell mine. He just said, "If I'm not around, promise me you'll use this for something that matters." I never touched it. Until now. That night, I logged into the account for the first time in years. It had grown, substantially. With interest and matching grants, it now held just over $61,000. I cried harder than I had since the day Caleb was born. Not because of the money, but because I'd almost forgotten that someone once believed I could do this. And as if the universe wanted to underline the moment, my phone buzzed again. This time, a DM from my cousin Rachel. "You didn't hear this from me, but your mom tried to use Caleb's hospital stay to apply for guardianship override behind your back. Said you were emotionally unstable and neglecting him." My hands went cold. That's when it clicked. All the pressure to attend the party. The sudden lawyer involvement. The quiet family smear campaign. She wasn't just punishing me. She was trying to take him from me. To anyone reading this who's ever been told you were too emotional or making a big deal out of nothing, I want you to hear this. You're not crazy. They just needed you to think you were so they could keep control. And sometimes, the strongest thing you'll ever do is walk away before they tear everything else down with them. It's been a year. Caleb just turned 13 last month. We threw him a small party in the backyard. Paper lanterns, a Costco cake, a few friends, and the kind of quiet joy I used to think only existed in other people's homes. No one in my family came. Not that they weren't invited. They just never responded. And honestly, that silence was the best gift they could have given us. After I found out my mother had tried to file for guardianship behind my back, I didn't scream. I didn't call her. I didn't even cry. I walked into the tiny guest bathroom in Caleb's hospital room, splashed cold water on my face, looked at myself in the mirror, and said aloud, "Enough." I contacted a lawyer the next morning. She was blunt, brilliant, and, bless her, more furious than I was. Within 48 hours, she'd filed a cease and desist to block any further filings from my mother, citing medical manipulation and conflict of interest. We compiled evidence: texts, voicemails, the trust fund termination, and yes, even the group chat screenshots. Turns out, screenshots do hold up in court. When the legal notice landed in my mom's mailbox, she went uncharacteristically quiet. No misunderstood intentions. No crocodile tears. Just a single message forwarded through my dad. "Tell Jenna this isn't over." She was right. It wasn't over. It got worse before it got better. The church group she'd chaired for 15 years dropped her from the board after someone anonymously forwarded them. My mother's guardianship paperwork and a screenshot of her Instagram post calling me emotionally unstable. The PTA group she practically ran whispered her name like it was bad luck. My sister Erin claimed she had no idea, but went suspiciously offline for 3 months. Caleb, meanwhile, got stronger. He started walking without the brace. His therapist said he was showing resilience well beyond his years. I told him that didn't surprise me one bit. But the real closure? It came when Caleb and I visited David's parents in Arizona that summer. At dinner one night, Caleb asked in front of everyone, "Mom, if Grandma ever says she wants to talk again, would you?" I paused. The room went still. I looked at him and said, "I might listen." But I wouldn't go backwards. He nodded, thoughtful, then said, "Good. 'Cause I don't want to." It hit me then. This boy I'd fought so hard for, shielded, sacrificed for, he understood. Not just the pain, but the power of choosing peace, of drawing a line and keeping it. And that's something no trust fund, no apology, no performative birthday post could ever give us. I still get letters from my dad every now and then. Short. Careful. He signs them. "Thinking of you both." I think he knows this is as close as he'll get to us now. My mother hasn't reached out since. But I know, deep down, she expected me to come crawling back. She thought if she threatened enough, withheld enough, twisted the knife just right, I'd break. But I didn't. I healed. And Caleb? He bloomed. So here we are, just the two of us, in a smaller apartment with secondhand furniture, a growing stack of medical bills, and a fridge full of leftovers. But every corner of this place feels ours. And every night when I kiss Caleb goodnight, I do it knowing one thing for damn sure. The family you choose will always fight harder for you than the one that thinks they own you. Lesson I've learned? Family isn't defined by titles or money. If someone forces you to choose between peace and your relationship with them, choose yourself. And if you've ever had to cut ties with family to protect your child, or even just to protect yourself, I want to hear your story. Share it in the comments. And if you saw a part of yourself in this story, stay a while. We've still got a lot left to tell each other.